Hey guys, um, this broadcast is going on my both my personal Facebook and my weekly piano channel right now. I promised the weekly piano users after this last live stream that I would answer a few questions, and I had some questions here. Um, here we go. I need to find them at the end of this video here. There we go. Some people asked some pretty good questions. By the way, just to debrief you on... Oh, why is this still appearing as a closed channel? I need to fix that real quick. 1 second. All right, this is good. It'll give people a second to actually log on here. And in fact, if you could re-ask your questions in this feed, that'll make it a little bit easier. Should be live right now, right? I think we're live. Fuck it, we'll do it live. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that thing of the Fox News anchor. I think it was a Fox News anchor who was... I think that was pretty funny. There we go, live now. Got 3 of you watching. Okay, so if you could ask the question that you had asked before so I don't need to dig through and find it. And at the same time, I'm going to go and make this live stream not a locked thing for my personal. I don't know why that's locked. I'll make that public. All right, so I'm answering some questions. I think we should be live now to my personal Facebook. Yeah, there we go. Haha. Okay, so this is something I'm going to try to do nightly. We'll see if it pans out that way, because right now I'm in the Tiny Room studio, which is housed at the Dock in Los Angeles, which is a really cool studio complex with a great community of artists, and we're working on a series of live streamed events where we'll support other artists in the Los Angeles area, give them a platform to come and do really cool, high quality video live streams of their music. Might even turn into a little festival. I've talked to some really some entities that I'm excited to collaborate with to make it something that gets noticed and that is able to raise some money for artists who are out of work right now. So that being said, I'm now going to answer a few questions that during this last lesson, by the way, I just did a lesson for I just did a sort of lesson on my weekly piano channel, and I also broadcasted on the Tiny Room and Greg Spiro fan pages, but I did not broadcast it to my personal. So now we're on my personal. I've got the piano rigged up here. This is going to be a short one because I've been doing this for a while now. We got into some fun stuff, actually. I was doing some improvisations, and people would tell me, people would type in the chat, like, things to play or concepts or ideas. So I would incorporate, somebody would say chromatic fourths, and I'd be like... But I wouldn't play it like that. I would actually incorporate it into the improvisation. It was kind of fun. Anyway, oh yeah, okay, so that's not the live stream in this last live stream that I was doing, people were asking a couple questions. One of them, and they should be back on now on the weekly piano channel, one of them was what type of keyboard rig do you use on the road? And I use a lot of different keyboard rigs. I prefer an acoustic grand piano, when I go to festivals over, especially in Europe, they're really good about it. Backlining, we call the word backline means to bring um, all the equipment for you and have it there, usually set up ideally. And in Europe, they're really good about having a great, beautiful grand piano. All these arts venues that we played last summer when I was touring with Mackay McCraven, they generally had a beautiful grand piano and also a Rhodes. And hey, what's up, Andre, John? You guys are both here. You were here in the last. So that's on my weekly piano channel. If you want to see that, and you're on my Facebook channel right now, it's youtube.com/weeklypiano. I'm sort of bringing the two together. I started the weekly piano channel 10 years ago, and I kept it secret so that nobody would know it was me because I was highly insecure about my playing. I'm still highly insecure about my playing. I'm pretty sure most artists are. But I didn't want people to know that it was actually me when I was doing these little improvisations and lessons and things, and so I just didn't call it myself. But now at this point, it's gotten big enough. It's gotten like 25.5 thousand followers, and now it's well, worth telling you who I am because now you're coming to see my shows all around the world. Actually, it's really funny. When I play these shows with other groups, almost every single show somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, aren't you that weekly piano guy?" Because I guess a lot of you are big music fans and you go out to shows and you like upcoming jazz artists, and so you'll go out and see my shows with Mackay McCraven. In fact, I got it sometimes with Halsey, but I get it much more often when I'm out with either Spirit Fingers or with Mackay McCraven. People people recognize me from the Weekly Piano channel. So now I'm gonna rebrand it and call it Weekly Piano with Greg Spiro, or maybe Weekly Piano with like Ruslan Sirota. Ruslan, you might be watching right now. You tend to watch on my Facebook sometimes when I go live, and I definitely want to have you in more to give more lessons because you teach me a lot of stuff. Yeah, so anyway, that's that. But to answer, I forget, I think it was John who asked it. Somebody asked about my keyboard rigs on the road. And with Halsey, it was almost all software synthesizers. Like I would have a bunch of MIDI controllers, but they were all controlling my laptop. In fact, it was just my own personal laptop for the first year that we were touring together. I just had my Native Instruments plugins, and I did a lot of sound design using Massive. That's one of the tools, and then played it all in MainStage because MainStage is a good low latency interface. But man, that was crazy building that rig. It was a lot of technical work and a lot of learning over those couple years that we were really getting it going. It was smooth sailing for that last year, which it had to be because we were playing in front of 15,000 people every night, and when you do that, you can't have the keyboard fuck up. That would be really, really bad. Which it did a couple times, but not enough times to get me fired, which was nice. Oh hey, Nick, and you know what, Nick, I have to. This is embarrassing for me to say in public, but I have not figured out exactly how to say your last name, Kokonis, or Kokonis. I think it's Kokonis. But, you know, whenever we see each other, I can just call you Nick. So, I'm sorry, this is my confession right now. And you can't tell me now because you're just typing, but next time I see you, you'll have to tell me exactly how to pronounce your last name or reassure me that I'm doing it right or, like, slap me for doing it wrong. But, Nick, yes, if you'd like to take lessons via Skype, we can for sure do that. Hey, April Perkinson in Japan now. What are you doing in Japan? This is funny. These are people that I've known for actually quite some time, but April, I didn't realize you were in Japan. That's really cool. I would love to go to Japan to tour. I have only toured there. Well, I've toured there a few times, but not in the past like year or two. The first time was with the Miles Electric Band, and the second time was with Halsey, and then I think I went back a third time with Miles Electric Band. But hopefully Spirit Fingers will be getting over there soon. We have some fans in Japan. We just need to spread the word a little bit more. And with this next record, it's very, very likely that will happen. Hey, Becky, I see you over there too. Cool. We got some people on here chatting. In fact, I'm gonna pull this up so I can see the live feed a little bit better. Um. So anyway, back to the keyboard rig. I did all of that. Very. It was a very complicated rig for the Halsey tour, and I've incorporated bits and pieces of that on the road since then. But more often than not, when I do tour Europe with jazz groups, it's grand piano and a Rhodes, and that's actually been it for the past 6 months or so. However, sometimes I'll bring my little Yamaha Reface CS, which is a cool analog-ish. It's digital, but it simulates analog waveform building, and it doesn't have any presets on it unless you plug in your phone, and you can use that to like draw up presets. But the fun part about it is you're actually modeling the waveform as you're going, so it becomes this instrument, sort of like when you play a trumpet. You can you use your embouchure to get the different colors and tones. You can use this to get all these different colors and tones using the knobs and everything. So yeah, that's that. But I always prefer the piano. I mean, listen to the piano. There's nothing like the piano. The piano's the best thing in the world. You can play anything on the piano and it sounds beautiful. Okay, now this is an interesting thing. So one of my wow, this is actually a little bit of a mind fuck looking at two different screens at the same time with two different interfaces of people asking questions. I'll have to adjust this and figure out how to combine it all into one. But Lewis, I see you asking a question, and you were saying at some point, can you talk about applying language and licks and how you're thinking when improvising over a solo over a standard, or over a solo over a standard? I see. Are you thinking scales all the time or patterns you've internalized? Basically, what's your general thought pattern? Okay, that's actually a really good question. And a lot of the people, I'm broadcasting on 2 channels right now, so it's a little weird to just answer piano questions because I've got my whole Facebook channel on this too, watching right now. But I'll answer this because this might apply to other aspects of life. That's actually, I'm going to take a step back for a second because it's one thing that I have. Oh, hey, Spencer's watching. Spencer, I really need you to change the cover of the album, because there's been a big upset with Judy and the name of the album and all this stuff, and it's past due to the record label now. So please help me. I know you just probably flew back from Europe in that insanity that I saw photos of. So actually, it's okay. But whenever you have time, we need to do that because now we're behind and it's a catastrophe. But it's okay. I'm really glad you're home, Spencer. Thank you. Good. Anyway. April says stay focused. That's really funny. You know my issues, don't you? All right. So Lewis, back to the chords, but with the macro that I was talking about above that, which is that every single thing that goes into playing sure, you're funny. Every single thing that goes into playing music or painting or cooking even, any sort of art that dives deep into, like, we have to dive deep into our humanity, into that like consciousness that is beneath the thinking and the neuroses, that place you get to when you meditate. Every art that we do, the best of it taps into that and tackles that. And so, Lewis, when you're asking about these different aspects of playing over a standard, things like scales and even time and patterns, all of those, like that's like if you were painting and you say I just want to draw a lot of squares. I'll paint a lot of squares, so I'm just going to paint a lot of squares. It's like, that's not what makes the painting good. You know, you can paint squares or circles. In jazz, you can play like minor seconds, major seconds, thirds, fourths. You can play like a lick. But that doesn't make what you're playing anything of substance whatsoever. The reason that a lick like that even works in the first place is because if you break it down, there are connections between all of the all the intervals and aspects to the progression of what's happening even in that little microcosm that makes it beautiful, and you hear the beauty. Like, that's like a lick that I played, but I would never think, okay, I'm gonna play that lick in a song and then play it in a song, because hey, thanks Brian. Good to see you on here. My cousin is on here. Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually really good. I'm really lucky that I have a safe place to go to, and food to eat. I think a lot of people are gonna have a lot of trouble with that, which is one of the reasons that I'm doing these live streams consistently over the coming weeks and going to be supporting artists, and I'm going to be bringing on corporate sponsors to help fund the creation of these concerts, and then bring in audiences, and I've got some entities that are going to help expand the reach of what I'm doing, and we're going to bring in audiences to try to support the artists that we play, that we have on the channel. So ideally, my ideal is that this turns into a consistent festival with different artists who are in LA and not able to tour right now and not able to make their living come onto this platform and are able to make some money, and perform some amazing music for you, because they're incredible artists who are grounded because of this virus. So anyway, that's that. Coming back to art and to the idea of like what we play, I will think of development, but I won't think of a pattern. You know, like, I could play like and that is not music at all, but it's a pattern. But I could take that idea and then, so this is all what happens internally. I'll explain what happens internally, but I don't think about this even. But what happens internally is I'll play this, and then what processes is multiple layers of vocabulary of what that is pointing to, of what that actually means. So there's contour, right? Melodic contour. So it's up, goes up, right? So then maybe I'll play something that goes down, but there's also the idea of that was maybe dense, and so I'll play something that expands upon that. So then there are these layers of development that are happening just in two licks, like, so I'll play that, and then see, that makes that begins to create something interesting. And then you can add a passing tone there, and then you start to create a musical idea. But that's like that explaining it is like explaining like the first three numbers of pi, of the first three decimal places of like an infinitely expandable, an infinitely developable, is that a word? I don't think it is, but it might be. Journey through through artistry. So all right, I'm not sure exactly how to So, see, I played something like that, and what happened was I played an idea, something like that, and that idea was built on developing micro ideas. That was something that was an idea, but then I went back to the place where I started. So it was an idea, a passing tone, reversed the idea, and then something that diverges from the idea, right? So it's sort of a question in your mind when you do that. It's like when you see familiarity and then you see difference. But that goes back to the root of, like, you can use that in graphic design, familiarity and difference. Dichotomy. It goes back to those baseline concepts that are universal to everything. And then I played something like that afterwards, and that that answered the question for various other reasons that are similar to that. But the way that you get there, though, I'm not thinking about Lewis. That's the thing, is I'm not thinking about the small segment. What I'm thinking of is on a deeper, the conscious thought is simply. So here's actually, go to my weekly piano channel and do the exercise that I explain of that Ruslan Sirota showed me, which is where you play a lick and then you play two other licks and then you remember that lick again. So you have to, like, keep that in your mind, and like for those, it's not licks, it's bars. You keep that in your mind for the first. You play at the first two bars, you keep it in your mind for the third and fourth and fifth and sixth. In seventh and eighth bar, you play that exact same thing. Well, it doesn't have to be the exact same thing. It can be something that's like just something that is similar enough to it that you can tell the difference between that and the other stuff you played in between. So, like, I'll check it out. I'll play this for you on a blues. So. Actually, I'll do it more simple so I can give a better example. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the first lick, remember? See? And now you can use that. So I'll do it again. Oh, you got it. You got it. Cool. All right. Well, I'm glad that helped. See, that's why actually getting really great at music, it's not an obvious path. You can get great at technical stuff. There are countless people being pumped out from universities all around the world that are amazing at technical stuff. Much better than some of the most prominent players in the world. However, that doesn't mean that they are good at creating music that is touching. And music that is touching because it taps into something deeper, and that deeper thing you have to find somewhere. And you can do an intellectual exercise that takes you down this rabbit hole and this spiral to try to get to that center, which is one of the things I do because I think a lot. But you can also just get there spiritually, and then some of the greatest musicians in history got there by, like, drugs and stuff. Everybody has their different ways of getting there. I prefer ways that don't kill you, but yeah. Anyway, it's cool that you guys are asking these questions. I'm gonna go back to my weekly piano channel for a second. There are some people who are going in on this channel. Yeah, you do hold on to the sounds. That's a good way of putting it. You want to be able to hold on to an idea, because then that idea comes out subconsciously. That's one method. That's sort of what that exercise trains you to do. Like, if you make yourself retain that lick. And then you'll remember it later. And then you can do other stuff with it, like. That's not exactly what I meant to do, but. I love stuff like that. And it's not easy to make yourself do that. It actually kind of hurts. It's hard to sit and do these exercises for long periods of time, but that's why most people don't do them, and that's why most people don't become, like, well, good enough to go down that path of really going for it, because it takes a lot of work. I mean, there was a point when I was in my, like, when was it? I don't know. I guess in my 20s, I was living at my grandparents' house, and I would practice for like 10 hours a day, just getting my shit together. Even after college, I was way behind actually from most people, and it took a lot of work to catch up and get to the place where I felt like I could really compete. And then once you get to that place, then you create your own originality, in your ideas of what you think like sounds cool. And that's when it really gets fun. I mean, you can have that from the beginning. It's just not that codified at the beginning, and it's not that obvious. It's like a 6-year-old trying to be a poet. You know, they have to learn the language before they can express it in a way that can touch people in a specific, original way. Somebody on the Weekly Piano Channel said something kind of cool. Pickenstone, you said, a teacher once told me, paraphrased, it's like being in the dark and dropping something on the floor. You got to remember where you dropped the stuff. Same with sounds, like where you leave the notes. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to think of it like that. But it's not even really remembering, it's like embodying. You know, you listen to the great composers, they, like Beethoven, embodied that. Like that first, the like that opening statement, he embodied that for the entire piece. And it's not even that he remembered it, because, like, how could you possibly forget? It was there in every single minute detail of what he was doing. And he was using it as his vocabulary, as his language, really. He sort of even created a language just out of that out of that lick. Though you could argue that the Western music landscape provided the language of, like, you know, diatonic and chromatic harmony, the 12-tone scale, all of that, which you don't have in all cultures. That is specific to Western music. Yeah. Oh, bebop exercise suggestions. Somebody has asked me about bebop exercises. I do. I have a lesson. Actually, the most watched lesson on my piano channel, on Weekly Piano, it's called How to Become a Jazz Pianist in 42 Minutes. Obviously, a misleading name because it's a 42-minute video. But for whatever reason, you people on YouTube seem to love titles that have numbers in them and that say you can learn something in a certain period of time, even though when you are actually learning something, it takes you forever, or as long as you will be willing to spend, because there's no limit to how good you can get at something like learning jazz piano. But I have a video called learning how to be a jazz pianist in 42 minutes, and on that video, in the comments section, I'm pretty sure it's still there, links to the I have these two sheets that I got from a guy named Jim Trumpeter, who was my piano teacher when I was living in Chicago when I was in my 20s, and these sheets has like 52 bebop licks that are awesome. So get those bebop licks from the video and learn all of them in all the keys, and that'll help you a lot if you're trying to learn how to play bebop. And then you have to transcribe too. Make sure you're always transcribing. Okay, so sorry. Just looking at making sure I don't need to be anywhere. Actually, I do need to be somewhere. I need to be asleep. I've been going to bed by 10, and it's almost 10, and I'm 30 minutes from home. So, anyway, you guys are going to have to log back in. I'm going to do another one of these at some point. Lewis, I promise I will answer your questions another time. I'm also working on building a system where you can ask questions and then like converse with other people's ideas too. Stay safe, everybody. Try not to go out in public too much. Come back here. I'll be featuring a lot of really great artists. Sorry, man, my phone is blowing up now for some reason. I'll be featuring a lot of great artists and doing some cool concerts and giving opportunities for people to support some amazing musicians who are out of work right now who need help. So that will happen in the coming weeks. I love you all very much, and keep doing amazing things during this period. It doesn't mean you can't do awesome stuff. I'm trying hard. See you guys soon. Bye.